The goal today is to install my backsplash tile. This is a glass tile, so that's gonna go on this wall here. All this is gonna have that tile. So the first thing we want to do, just so you guys know, let's get right into it, is prep the area. So right now this is looking good, but there's like this little chunk right there. So what we want to do is take that off, use like a scraper or something. That came off with just my finger. Clean up a little bit around here just in case the tile is going to go in that area. What I normally do, I do remove these, or I loosen them up to pull them out a little bit. Be sure that you're not covering the hole that the screw goes into. So as long as you keep that hole open, you're good to go. Don't tile over those holes, and you're gonna have a hard time trying to open the holes back up. I did pull these wires off. I took the plate off. They're just long just because this cavity is pretty deep. So I don't want these to fall in there and then I have a problem trying to take them out. So that's why they're just so far out. This is normally how it would look. Now your home or most homes would come with a 4-inch backsplash. It's normally the same material as your countertop. The only thing is, when we had our house built, we asked them not to install that because I knew I was going to do tile. So this here, all this would normally have 4 inches of the same material on that wall that your countertop is made out of. But other than that, everything would be the same. If you do have a 4-inch backsplash that came with your house with your countertop, you got two options. Either A, you could leave it in tile from the 4-inch backsplash up, or the other option is remove your 4-inch backsplash and then you could go ahead and just tile from the counter up. Since I got this open area, I measured the center point. So the center point is at 5 3/16, and you can see I got it marked right there. So I measured the center point. If I start left to right, I could end up with a really dumb looking cut there, or vice versa. And I'm picking this point because that's the largest area that people are going to see. That's a focal point, and you want that focal point to look correct. This tile has already been marked. The total measurement of this tile from here to here, so those are the furthest points, this tile to this tile, is 14 5/8. So if you divide it by 2, it comes out to 7 5/16. So the center point of this tile is right here. I got a little dot there and a little dot at the bottom here. You could do a mastic, or you can mix your own thinset. I like to use this for backsplashes. I do not recommend it if your wall's way off. You got to do a lot of thinset. So I would recommend doing this right here. It's quick, it's easy, it's pre-mixed. You don't have to worry about anything. As you can see, I have my level on there. So that's right on the line. I'm gonna go ahead and install this tile. What I do, I'll go ahead and grab the mud and put it on the trowel. Make sure you have your sponge ready. And what I do is just I go ahead and spread this. The nice thing about having a level is that you're not gonna cover up your mark, obviously, because you got the level on it. As you can see, my mark's gone. I don't know if you were able to see in the camera. If I didn't have a level, I would have had to move the thinset out of the way so I could see my mark. So what I'm doing now, I'm scraping off any excess that I have on here, and I'm gonna go ahead and run this over and get the level down to where I need it. Sometimes glass tile is see-through. If you have a tile that's kind of see-through, you don't want to see the trowel mark in the tile. The best thing to do is you add your thinset, just like I'm doing, or you could probably find a better way to do it. Then come here, you trowel it, get the bulk of it off, whatever excess is on there, and then you can always go back and go over it and smooth it out so you don't see the lines. Now, some people might think this is wrong, but it's not. What's wrong is when you see a tile job that has glass in it and you see all the lines in the thinset. You don't want to see that. That totally takes away from the look of the tile. That's wrong, not this. We're not taking it off, all we're doing is smoothing it out. The next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna work sections at a time, and I back butter the tile. So you don't wanna go crazy, because when you start getting this stuff all over the place, you're not gonna be happy. All I'm saying is just be easy with this thinset, because you're gonna have a disaster that you're gonna have to clean up if you don't do it properly. So this is back buttered. I don't know if you can see in the camera, but got thinset on there, just brushed on there, nothing crazy. I'm gonna go ahead and install this. We're gonna line up the line with the dot I have here. And you can see I got some thinset on the tile. You don't want that, because then it's more for you to clean. I highly recommend you guys clean as you go. Don't wait till after because it's going to be more work for you to deal with. The first tile is the most important tile you need to make sure is right, because if not, then you're gonna have a problem. Everything's gonna be crooked. Let's make sure it's level. I think I wanna do a smaller gap. See, I got this gap up here. There it goes. Indicator of maybe too much thinset is when you push that tile down. If you got a lot of thinset that comes out of the grout line, then you might have too much. Pay attention to that. So that's one tile that's in. It should line up with the marks I got here. Another thing I do also is I use a grout float to level everything off. And I just kind of pat it down. Try to see if everything seems level or not. So the next cut, we're gonna measure. We can measure it from the top. 7 5/8 will give us a little gap on the end here. So I'm gonna measure 7 5/8 here. And remember, we're measuring from the shorter point. So what I gotta do is go left to right. So when you're on the left side, obviously you're gonna have a wall here, and we measure from the wall over. So we gotta go this way, 7 5/8. Then measure the same here, because it's the same one. 7 5/8 and 7 5/8. I got marks at 7 5/8. Okay, 1 2 3. I'm gonna confirm the measurement. So this is a measurement we're getting, 7 5/8. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this. We're gonna go ahead and use this. So for glass tile, you could use a grinder or a wet saw. I just don't like to use it because it leaves a lot of jagged or little chips on the tile. So I don't like that look. A cutter like this does really well with giving you a clean cut, at least on the surface, you know? And that's really what we're gonna be concerned about. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut each one individually. This is how they got cut, so let's go take a closer look, if it looked good or not. Hopefully it does. So on the back side, we're just gonna cut the mesh. Sometimes the material on the tile is still attached when you cut it. So you gotta make sure you cut it. If you try to pull it, you'll rip it. This material is kind of painted on, so you don't have to worry about it. But there's some glass tile that have a film on there. It kind of rips if you don't cut it with the blade, like I am doing it now. So you would have to cut through the mesh and that material. Be careful with that, otherwise you're gonna have spots that are not gonna look that great. Hopefully this came out good. This is it right here. Cut's okay. There's one piece here that I'm not happy with. I'm going to probably cut that out. I'm just cleaning off all the lines. Yeah, so the cut I don't like is this one. So everything else looks good to me. This one I just don't like. You're gonna be able to see that when I put the grout in there, and I don't like that. So what do we do with a situation like this, okay, and where everything's good? We don't discard it. We're just gonna cut this piece out and cut a new piece. So we're just gonna go ahead and cut this. Make sure you don't cut through your paint cloth and cut the countertop. This is a piece we're gonna replace. So now we're working with this. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the wall. This is gonna go right here. As you can see, we're running into a problem here. So I'm gonna have to do something with this piece here. Just pay attention to the lines. Make sure they're based properly. So this was a piece that was gonna go here. Like I said, I didn't like it. So I need to cut a new piece, and I'm gonna have to notch this out. This piece goes here. I just need to notch that out. All right guys, this is what I got so far. I was trying to film the whole thing, but I keep getting phone calls and interruptions. Well, you guys got the gist of it. You make sure you line up the center. That's the next piece that I have, that bottom piece right here. And then I added this, and now I gotta cut this piece, and then I'm gonna cut the ends here. If you notice, I have the little spacer in there holding it together. The gaps, I don't wanna stay how they should. I wanna show you this example. So this is a sheet, and you see how this is crooked? This is glued on. See how this gap is bigger here and more narrow here? There's not much movement. So if I install this, it's gonna install just how you see it. But what you wanna do in this circumstance, you wanna cut this mesh. I cut the mesh, it's free. So now I could adjust the tile. So when I install it, instead of it being like this, with that small gap, I can adjust it so it looks right. Get yourself a little bucket. I like to use these because you got liners on there. And you just throw out the liner when you're done. So put some grout in there. What I normally do, I'll grab the sponge, dip it in the bucket, and then squeeze the water in there, mix it. So I got some water in there, and I'm just gonna mix it up. See, it doesn't seem to want to absorb. but it is gonna absorb. Just keep mixing. This is exactly how I like it. So I just put the grout on this like this. Be sure to get it in the gaps here, but I'm not worrying about that because I'm not using grout caulk. You could use a wide part of the float, but I kind of like to use more narrow since the towel are so small. I think I could get better surface area. Don't go with the lines because you could pull all the grout out of the grout line. Go at angles. Unfortunately, some areas you can't do it that way, but in that circumstance, just go easy. Kind of pay attention to what you're doing. Like down here, I can't do it that way. I could go upwards. And this is not your final cleaning, but you do want to clean it the best you could because you don't want the stuff to dry on the tile, especially if you have like a natural stone tile. Once it gets on there, it's going to be very difficult to clean. And as they're cleaning, just kind of look at the grout line. Sometimes you get these little air bubbles that go in there and then it leaves a little pinhole. Pay attention to that. See this gap? So just fill it in. So that's why you want to look. Sometimes you'll have a gap there. You could just use your finger if you need to. Smear it in there. So that's the initial cleaning. Then we're going to come back and do it again. After the grout dries, you don't want to go over it too much because you'll start pulling the grout out of the grout lines. So just kind of remix your grout. You see how it looks watery now? Before it wasn't. So it seems to go through stages and then it gets rock hard right away. Try not to take too long with this, do smaller batches. All right, so the grout's done. Only other thing to do now is caulk. So I'm gonna be caulking this, all this with grout caulk. All the joints, grout caulk, and same thing's gonna happen here, all up underneath the cabinet, that area, up there as well. I'm gonna go ahead and use a sanded grout caulk. They do have unsanded as well. Be sure to get the color that matches your grout. Go ahead and cut the tip at an angle. Go ahead and use a blade, just don't cut yourself. Get a caulk gun. Some caulk guns come with a poker. Some caulks you do need to poke the hole because there's a little seal at the end. You put it in the caulk gun, you push the back part in, and then you pull the trigger. Go ahead and use a wet sponge or a wet rag. I prefer t-shirt material if you're using a wet rag. If you're using a regular rag, it'll pull the caulk out. Go ahead and run that bead. You can either pull it or push it. I like to pull it because I like to see what I'm doing. Then you wet your finger and you go ahead and run that line down. If you use a dry finger, it's gonna kind of give you a mess. And then you go ahead and follow through with your sponge or your rag as long as it's wet, and then you use your finger to clean it up. If you have any excess, a lot of excess, go ahead and put it in another spot that you need caulk. I don't like to waste caulk, so that's what I do. And any little bit on your finger, you clean it on your sponge. And that's how you do it. All right, so we're done with this backsplash. I'm gonna show you the final product. Hopefully you guys like what you see. So basically, this is right behind the range, and then I did an accent wall right there to mimic the centerpiece here. Same thing there. Basically, the caulk came out pretty good, as you can see. Hopefully you guys like the end result. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to type them in. And if you liked what you see, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe.